All right, so today I wanted to start by talking about the whole stimulus thing out of the States, and it's very relevant to us because it's not really a story. It's more of a government doing what government does, and that government doesn't care about you. Like the government does not care about you. So basically, for anybody who hasn't heard about it already, the states just passed this big stimulus bill. I mean, it's supposed to be giving every I don't know who exactly qualifies for it, but anyway, it's $600 a person. And Michael Gardner says $600 for 300 million Americans is 180 billion. The stimulus bill that's about to pass is 900 billion total. That means 80% of the stimulus money is going to special interests and government programs where the average person gets the crumbs. Now, this is something I talk about so much, and it bothers me so much in that this should be a nonpartisan issue. Like this should be completely bipartisan that this stuff isn't okay. The problem, I think, is that both sides, but the left specifically as well, is so focused on being tribal that if Trump supports it, it must be wrong, right? If Trump supports it, it must be wrong. If the Republicans support it, it must be wrong. Even though, Trump and McConnell are there's more of a difference between Trump and McConnell than there is your average Democrat and McConnell. But anyway, and they would say the same thing about Justin Trudeau. But again, do you honestly believe that if Justin Trudeau repealed the carbon tax tomorrow, that people would be still bashing him, like at least people on the right? Like, of course they wouldn't. They may necessarily not be congratulating him, but at the very least they would be saying nothing. So again, that is the big difference. Like that is the big difference. And I think the other big difference too is that from the leftist perspective, the entire goal is growing the government and power, right? That's the entire goal. From the right's perspective, it's simply less government, meaning you don't have to be as tribal, right? You don't have to be as tribal. But anyway, like I said, the whole point of here is not necessarily to be partisan. The whole point is that this stuff should be completely um, not partisan, right? And that again, I'm not a big fan of giving people free money, but if we're going to give people free money, then at least give it to the people. And here's the thing: if you're going to give people $600, why the big difference? Now again, if you need a little bit, if you need 5 or 10% off the top for like administrative, people, like it's 180 billion. Let's say it's 200. The other 20 go towards people that are going to be distributing it and doing all that garbage. Okay, that wouldn't be a big deal, but 80% of it going to special interests. I mean, you look at the numbers, there's hundreds of millions of dollars that are going to foreign countries, and that's individual foreign countries. It's, I think, into the tens of billions going to foreign countries when you add it all up. There's tens of millions of dollars going towards like gender studies and garbage like that. So again, regardless of whether or not you agree with that stuff, why are you doing it? And this is the thing that really bothers me, that you would think it would be a completely nonpartisan issue, that if there's a lot of pain and suffering going on in your own country, which there obviously is right now, I don't think anyone would deny that no matter where you're at. Why in the world are we giving money to foreign countries? Now, again, this is American, but Justin Trudeau's given away billions of dollars of taxpayer money to foreigners, to foreign countries as well. And then I think the only argument I think you could hear from this kind of stuff is, oh, we got to help the poor people in the third world. Well, number one, a lot of this money isn't going to the poor people in the third world. There has been trillions of dollars that have been pumped into Africa and the Middle East, and specifically Africa. But has poverty been eradicated in these countries? It's maybe a little bit better, but it's not much better. So again, for the problem with foreign aid, again, it should be rather obvious, is the leaders and the elites of these poorer countries, they take their cuts and they give the crumbs to the poor people, right? They give the crumbs back. That's why this stuff never works. And it's very funny too, because um, these are the same people who complain endlessly about the whole corporate corruption thing, but yet they think that corporate corruption is completely, it never happens in foreign countries. It only happens in Canada and the US. Again, it's just the levels of insanity for these people. It really knows no bounds. And it's like I say, the big question here is that why in the world can we all not agree on this stuff? Like seriously, why in the world can we all not agree? I really don't understand why we can't all agree on this. I think we do. I think, like I say, I think the problem is that people are so focused on being tribal, specifically on the left, because I think it's very obvious they're worse on this. It's not that the right is perfect, um, in that they're so worried about, oh, again, if Trump's for it, we got to be against it. If the right is for it, we got to be against it. But again, like I don't understand this. Like I really don't. It makes no sense. And this is going to be a bigger and bigger problem going forward. Like exactly what I said. I don't think that just shooting out endless amounts of free money is going to be a good solution. But if you're going to do it, like I said, at least give it to the people. At least give it to the people. Don't have all this garbage going on. It's like I say, the whole point here, I guess, is like I brought up. Why is this a partisan issue? Like seriously, why is this a partisan issue? I really don't understand. I'm trying to go over the range of possibilities for why this is a partisan issue, and I really don't. And I think that the most logical solution, or the most logical thing, is that it's just because people are so tribal. People are so tribal. They can't just come together, and you think that, again, like I think another thing too is that on the left, they've pretty much gone full circle when it comes to the establishment, and that 20 years ago it was the left that was the most anti-establishment, right? The right was pro-establishment, the left was anti-establishment, and it's completely gone full circle. And that a lot of people on the right are still pro-establishment, to be fair, but the left is pro-establishment in every way, shape, and form, right? Like the punk bands used to rally against this kind of stuff. I mean, I don't know if punk bands really exist anymore, but if they do, they're not speaking up against this kind of stuff, right? Again, it's just very, very crazy, very, very crazy. Um, and in Canada, this stuff's the same too. Like this stuff, it's similar in Canada in that we have, I think the debt is projected to be like a $500 billion this year. And if you look at the CERB and all these, assistance programs, I think that makes up like, I think it's about 200, I think it's like 150 to 200 of that amount. So again, what did the other two or 300 go towards? I don't know. Like again, some of that is probably necessary to, given there's probably more stress on the government this year, but we're bringing on way more debt than we need to. And the craziest thing about this too is that this is all money that is either taxpayer money, like Luke Rudowski brings up here. This is all taxpayer money, or it's money that's going to be financed through debt. Either way, it's coming out of our pockets. Like it's coming out of the taxpayers' pockets. This is the craziest thing about it, is that why is it such a I really just don't understand. I think this is the problem of politics nowadays, I think, is that there's really no getting anywhere, which is why we should separate into separate countries. Like the problem nowadays is that it's something that should be one of the most nonpartisan issues is one of the most partisan issues, right? Not to mention too, it took Congress like 30 days, like a month, to get this done when it should take like an hour. Like again, it's just the whole system is broken, and the problem being is that the majority of people, their solution to the broken system is more of what made it broken in the first place, and that's why it's so broken. So the next thing to bring up here is from Tom Quiggin, and he links to a story at a True North saying government spent 570 million on foreign-made sanitizer while Canadian companies produced it for free. Now, again, this is speaking of government waste. Now, to be fair, I'm not sure if these companies would have been able to produce the amount that is needed for free. I'm not sure if they would have been able to keep up with those levels of production, but they definitely could have kept up with some of it. I mean, here's the other thing too, is that hand sanitizer isn't as good as what it's made out to be too. Like do you really think that, hand sanitizer is this end all be all? Like, no, it really isn't. But anyway, the whole point here being is that why are we wasting money when we have local companies that are producing it for free? And at the very least, even if you have to pay them to produce a little extra because they can't do enough for free, then it's still better to keep the money in Canada, to keep the jobs in Canada than not, right? Like, I really don't get it. I really don't get it. And I think the problem here is that government is so broken that they just don't care. Like, they just don't care. They've gotten so used to the broken system that they're not going to change. This is a story out of iWire News, and it's titled "Asymptomatic Spread of the You Know What is Very Rare," WHO says. Now, the very funny thing is that whenever you bring this kind of stuff up, the lockdown zealots and the you know what kind of people, they always say, "Oh no, this is debunked. It's debunked." Well, again, even though they provide no legitimate evidence of that. Again, there's stories that say that, but they're not legit. Now, again, this is from September too. Like this isn't like it's from like April. And again, you don't need to, you just need to think about it from a logical perspective. The whole definition of asymptomatic is that you don't have symptoms. In other words, you're not sick, right? Now, the problem would have to come up to where can you transmit a virus when you don't have any symptoms of the virus? I don't know. I don't know. I don't think so. If you're thinking about it from a logical perspective, I don't think so. But if you can, and here's the other thing too, is that if you have no symptoms, how can you tell for sure whether or not you have it? That's the other big problem. So again, from a logical perspective, it just doesn't make any sense that asymptomatic spread is what is causing the spread of this virus. And you've had people like Fauci who said when we got into this whole situation that asymptomatic spread is never the driving cause of an outbreak or a virus. Never. So again, I don't think that this whole situation is any different because it's there's several pandemics that have been far deadlier throughout history. I mean, so again, the idea that this is completely different, it just doesn't make any sense. So again, this is something that should be talked about more, but obviously it isn't because again, of course, the mainstream media is not going to tell you this stuff. And the last thing I wanted to bring up here again, another crazy story at a CTV. More floods, blizzards, droughts expected as Saskatchewan warms 3 times faster than the rest of the world report. Now, again, I'm not going to read the article because it's stupid, but the whole point of this being is that they say this about everywhere. Like they say this about everywhere. It's very funny that I was reading through the comments of where I originally seen this, and someone was posting these articles of like literally everywhere. It's like Europe is warming 3 times faster, Australia is 3 times faster, literally every continent is warming three, two, three, 1.5 times faster, right? It's just this is just I think it's just a you know what test. That they're trying to figure out, okay, just how stupid is the average person? Like just how crazy of stuff can we tell them and them still believe it? I think that's what this is. I think that's what this is. Um, so anyway, that's what I wanted to talk about today. If you liked the video, make sure you hit that like and subscribe if you haven't already. Make sure you check out those links below. Follow me on those other platforms if you haven't already. Um, if you want to donate, you can do that as well. Again, but I appreciate whatever support I can get. And like I say, check out those links and stay tuned for more.